Sunday, 26th of May, 2024. It's about 8:20 in the evening. I won't be going out to do any astro for an hour and a half maybe. Everything's drifting really quick to the west. And of course I am going to bore you once again with that whole series of galaxies in Coma Berenices hair. And the reason is because it's 3 days after the full moon. And what I want to do is actually get them under really good seeing conditions. And from what I can tell in the sky right now, we'd be looking pretty good. Let's have a look off for clouds to the west. Nope, looks quite good. So now in the process of accessing the scope. I don't think it's going to get windy, but it's probably a good idea to make sure this is latched down. Turn on the Gemini 2. Give it a chance to initialize. Open up the south-facing roof try. As soon as it comes up, do a warm restart. And a menu option park, and park it at the home position, which means basically with the scope facing to the south and the west, because I expect hopefully we will be able to capture the images of the 12 plus galaxies I have over the last week before they disappear behind the roof try. Well, let's start with this. Denebola. And because I've learned recently that temperatures change the focus, even though I had focused it earlier, I did have to refocus the scope. We're going to go to the standard shutter speed. 128 flood. Could go a little higher, but we're not. Takes too long to image if you run it at 256 flood. Returning and saving. All right, not quite sky dark except in the middle third of the sky, so we're going to make a run at it anyway. And once again we are revisiting Galaxies in Coma Berenices, which I've already imaged 4 times, I believe 4 times previously, but all in the beginning of the second, all to the full moon, which ended the second quarter. We're now into third quarter by about 3 days. Let's have that first view. One more time. NGC 4136, a galaxy in Coma Berenices, magnitude 11. 3.9 by 3.6 arc minutes, which puts it at about an average surface brightness of 13.9. This is a spiral with a bar, lowercase c, 3 times removed from lenticular class, so it should have a fairly narrow delta between the blue-violet and the visual, the BV delta. This galaxy has a ring. It's 26 million light years distant. It's probably about 40,000 light years in diameter. I hope to be also posting up the images, at least the very last image from the full moon night, so that we can compare between the images now that the sky is free of the lunacy and moon washing, so we can get a better idea of how these galaxies would ordinarily look if the moon were not a factor. So basically that's what we've explored over the last 10 days is how much effect does the moon have in terms of imaging a galaxy, real-time quality of imaging in deep sky studies. And here is our view. It is more present than I have ever seen it. Now, right now, it's about 10 minutes to 10. So we haven't quite really entered into sky dark. And it's about, I would say, 3.5 weeks till Midsummer's Day, the summer solstice. So the days are getting very long and the nights short, And for us amateur astronomers, we have to stay up pretty late in order to get a good view of the night sky. NGC 4150, you've heard that number before. Galaxy in Coma Berenices, fainter, magnitude 11.6, but smaller, 2.3 by 1.6 arc minutes. However, this is a lenticular spiral, so it has a fairly condensed luminosity to it. About 45 million light years distant. Smaller, probably about 25 to 30,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 30 and almost a half degree in declination. Because this is a lenticular and a fairly football-shaped lenticular, we're probably not going to get much sense of texture in this view. But there we have it, NGC 4150. We'll now be looking at NGC 4203, another galaxy in Coma Berenices, brighter but larger. Magnitude 10.9, 3.5 by 3.2 arc minutes. Once again, a fairly condensed galaxy. Spiral of the lenticular class O with a bar 50 million light years distant. Puts this baby at about 50 to 55,000 light years in diameter. We're at right ascension 12, 1505, declination 331150, and as per earlier videos, it takes some 35 to 40 seconds for an image of a galaxy to fully form on the screen. We're making 6 passes at roughly 4 seconds each, 3 to 4 seconds each at 1/28 flood. And that should reveal galaxies on a very good night down to magnitude 16.5. Fortunately, this one's magnitude probably 5.5 magnitudes brighter, and we are seeing it fairly luminous on the screen as I speak. NGC 4245, galaxy in Coma Berenices, once again, slightly fainter, magnitude 11.4, also football shaped, 3.3 by 2.4 arc minutes, spiral with a bar of the lenticular class O halfway to A. This galaxy has a ring to it. 34 million light years distant, puts it at probably about somewhere around 35,000 light years in diameter. I would expect to get a sense of that annularity on this galaxy, since rings are roughly 4.5 magnitudes fainter than the overall brightness of the galaxy as a rough measure, putting this ring at somewhere around 16th magnitude. So look for it. Something, oh, we just had a passage. I can't tell you whether it's probably a meteor, not a satellite passage. Anyway, NGC 4245, nice galaxy with a ring. Hopefully we should be making it out, especially if you avert your vision slightly to the right. You activate those rods as you're looking at the screen. NGC 4251, Coma Berenices galaxy. This is a brighter one, slightly, magnitude 10.7, 3.6 by 2.5 arc minutes, so squashed football shape. Spiral with a bar of the lenticular class, and once again a ring somewhere around magnitude 15.5 would be the sense of it. It does look kind of, I referred to this multiple times now as the 6 o'clock galaxy, only because it looks like it's edge on and the extensions go in terms of this screen to the 12 and 6 o'clock positions. We are now at 28 degrees and change in declination, and there's no sign whatsoever that we're getting any blockage, even though many deep sky studies are racing rapidly to the west given the fact that the days are lasting so much longer and the nights are delayed. Anyway, this is a fairly nice view of this beautiful, apparently edge-on but not, supra-oblate or sub-football shaped 10.7 magnitude galaxy, 44 million light years distant. And I would say somewhere around 65,000 light years in diameter. We just had another passage across the screen. Now notice with meteors that what you'll see is slowly the trail behind them will dissipate and they have somewhat of a smoky, cloudy texture to them. That's something to look for whenever a meteor passes as opposed to a satellite. And of course, eventually we want to see something come in and take a right-handed or a left-handed turn so that we can verify the fact there really are weird craft flying around in Earth's skies. I'd like to verify the sky is definitely into full sky dark now. It looks pretty black overhead. What we're looking at here is NGC 4274, Galaxy Coma Berenices, brightest galaxy yet, magnitude 10.4, largest galaxy yet, 6.8 by 2.4 arc minutes, definitely something along the lines of a 3-to-1 suboblate. This is a spiral with a bar, lowercase ab, and a ring, so it's 1.5 times removed from lenticular, 43 million light years distant, and that puts it at about the size of our own Milky Way, given its apparent size and distance, somewhere around 90,000 light years in diameter. And that is the best view we have gotten of this galaxy yet. As I poke in the next one, why don't we allow it to develop a little bit more fully. NGC 4283, another galaxy in Coma Berenices, is a small 1-to-1 aspect ratio, 1.4 by 1.4 arc minute elliptical, magnitude 12.1, so it should be fairly condensed, 47 million light years distant, not very large, probably somewhere around 25,000 light years in diameter. We're at right ascension, 12 hours, 20 minutes and 20 seconds, declination 29/18/37, and so far there is no threat of losing aperture to the roof try. In fact, I think we could probably go another half an hour at this right ascension. I'll look in the next one while this one, probably don't need to watch it develop since it's a lenticular or an elliptical galaxy. We're going on to NGC 4314. NGC 4314, Galaxy in Coma Berenices, magnitude 10.6, 3.9 by 3.7 arc minute spiral with the bar, lowercase a. 39 million light years distant. Puts this one maybe 50,000 light years in diameter. We're at almost 30 degrees northern declination with this one. There's some great extension on this particular galaxy. Have a look at that while I plug in the next study. I'm going to add 100 to 4314 to get 4414. Very nice. Another fine galaxy displaying extensions. NGC 4414 in Coma Berenices, brightest galaxy yet. Magnitude 10.1, 3.6 by 2 arc minutes, spiral of the class lowercase c. 39 million light years distant. We're as far north as we've gone yet at 31 degrees, 13 minutes and 22 seconds. We're not quite at right ascension 12.5 hours. Okay, so that basically covers, oh, we got a couple more, 4442 and 4447. Let's have a look at those. So I'm going to plug in 4442 as we continue to watch this beautiful saucer-shaped galaxy continue. Now just go ahead and make a right-hand turn somewhere on the screen so I can say that you're a UFO. Okay, so we're going on to 4442. We have exited Coma Berenices coiffure for the Virgin. NGC 4442 is magnitude 10.4, 4.5 by 1.8 arc minutes, spiral with a bar of the lenticular class, 49 million light years distant. We dropped well south to 9 degrees, 48 minutes, 14 seconds northern declination for this particular view. And it gives us an idea of what the sky is further to the south. It looks pretty black up there to me. My eyes are not fully dark adapted because I have to look at the screen, but not a bad sky compared to others that I've seen in the past. We should be looking for pixelation on the screen. That usually tells me that there's a good deal of water vapor, and I'm seeing a little bit of pixelation, but not as bad as I did the other night. In fact, it was last night when I came out, and I was hoping to catch galaxies that were in ascendant, that were up to as far as 50 degrees north last night, but as it turned out, none of those galaxies were accessible because by the time I got out, they were virtually on the zenith. So I can't get much beyond 40 degrees north when galaxies, or any study, is at the zenith. 45 degrees north, roughly. Okay, so we're going to go on to NGC 4447 as we continue to let this one develop. And this is our threshold galaxy, 4447, because we could barely pick it out at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter against the screen, but we should get a pretty good view of this 14th magnitude galaxy on this evening. NGC 4447, Galaxy in Coma Berenices, once again magnitude 13.9, 0.9 by 0.7 arc minutes, spiral with a bar of the lenticular class O, has a ring, 326 million light years distant. It's magnitude 13.9, and it's not actually popping up there. Well, it's quite visible right here. Not a particularly good view, but it's obvious on the screen compared to other views that I've had when the lunacy was dominating and the sky was moon washed. So at this point, what I'd like to do is see if I can pick out anything else that we might like to look at. Maybe a Messier class galaxy. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here and step through the NGC catalog until I get to a Messier galaxy. Probably it will turn up in Virgo, however, because there aren't any Messier galaxies I'm aware of in Coma Berenices. Here we go. Okay, watch this baby develop. I don't think it's going to show much in the way of texture. This is M49 or NGC 4472. I'll give you some information on it. I believe it's a lenticular. So we're not going to see much in the way of extensions. We might see some extensions, but yeah, Messier 49's magnitude 8.4, so it's the brightest galaxy in the Messier, in the Virgo, Coma Virgo galaxy group. It is an elliptical class 4, that's what I meant, but it's huge. M49 is magnitude 8.4, 9.8 by 8.2 arc minutes, Elliptical class 4, so you can see it's somewhat oblate or football shaped, 60 million light years distant, puts this at probably 175 to 180,000, maybe almost 200,000 light years in diameter. So it's much bigger, significantly bigger than Messier 31, and more than twice as large as our own Milky Way. We're at almost precisely 8 degrees positive northern declination, butting right up against right ascension hour, 12 hours 30 minutes, so 12:29:46. That's our view. It is optically, in terms of visual light, the largest galaxy in the Coma Virgo group. However, there is another galaxy, I believe it's Messier 87, that is actually smaller in terms of visible optical light, but much more extensive, almost 1 million light years across, in terms of other forms of luminosity that are not apparent in the visual spectrum. So there's our view of Messier 49. So speaking of Messier 87, we're now at NGC 4486. It's almost as bright as Messier 49 at magnitude 8.6, slightly smaller in the optical spectrum of 8.7 by 6.6 arc minutes. It's a little bit larger than the Andromeda Galaxy, probably about 160,000 light years across, but as I mentioned, in other frequencies of invisible light, it is more than probably as much as 5 to 6 times larger than you would ordinarily see. Basically, the light of this galaxy just keeps spreading out in all directions because it is an elliptical class 1 with peculiarities. 61 million light years distant. Let's go ahead and hop around for a few more before we call it a carpe noctem. Okay, we simply have to go out on this galaxy. NGC 4490, a galaxy in Canis Venatici, neighboring to Coma Berenices. Its magnitude 9.8, 6.4 by 3.2 arc minutes, perfectly oblate galaxy. You can see the spiralicity in its neighbor. It's a spiral with a bar and lowercase cd, so it's basically well distant from the lenticular class of galaxies. Now you see that faint neighbor there. I think it's 4485, and I'll tell you something in doing some research on this galaxy. Apparently the faint neighbor has already passed through the brighter 4490 already. But notice the 4485, if I'm correct in that designation. It doesn't have a very distinct core. And the reason is that apparently 4485 passed through, engaged 4490 in such a way that the black holes in the 4490 had such a gravitational tug on the black hole in 4485 that it captured it, and they are now circling one another, leaving 4485 without a powerful gravitational core. Now when you look at this baby, this is a magnificent view of both of these galaxies. And the funny thing about it, Messier never documented it, despite the fact you could easily find this one brighter galaxy through a 3-inch telescope on a good night of seeing, such as I am enjoying right now. Carpe noctem.